I have to be the host of this program, the moderator of this program. I want to once again welcome everybody. We'll start right away without wasting time by inviting the chairman of FNIE in person of Engineer Professor J.O. Olaoye to give a brief opening remark. Professor Olaoye, you are welcome, sir. Professor Olaoye, sir, we're waiting for you, sir.
You need to mute one of the systems with you. It's echoing.
I'm not sure the chairman is online.
Okay. Let me check. Are you sure it's not online, sir?
Let me check too.
No, it's not online.
It's not.
Oh,
Professor Jesse Adama.
Okay.
Professor Jesse Adama is online. I think he can give the remarks on his behalf.
Okay. I would like to invite Professor Jesse Adama to please give us a brief opening remark on behalf of the chairman, Professor Olaoye. Professor Adama, you are welcome, sir.
You have to unmute yourself, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Professor Adama, go ahead, sir.
I think the audio signal is poor of this side.
Professor Adejibo, nice seeing you again. Maybe you should just go ahead and give the remarks at the same time.
Okay. On behalf of the chairman, FNIE Noble Profession, Engineer Professor J.O. Olaoye, I want to welcome every one of us to this month's webinar. And I believe it's going to be a wonderful time. I believe it's going to be a wonderful time when our erudite VC will be taking us through the findings and the contributions of agric engineers to humanity as a whole. I want us to pay attention so that we'll be able to benefit as much as possible, and so that we'll be able to also ask questions so that we can be more enlightened. So I want to once again welcome everybody to this month's webinar. I believe it's going to be a wonderful experience in this brief webinar. Once again, we're all welcome. Without wasting much of our time, we'll see that the time is fast spent. I'd like to invite Dr. A.I. Ayila to give us a brief introduction about the speaker. Dr. Ayinla, you are welcome. Please go ahead and give us a brief introduction about the presenter. Thank you. Dr. Ayinla, we are waiting for you, sir. Dr. Ayinla, we are waiting for you, sir.
And it was up before.
It was on before.
Can the chairman briefly introduce the speaker? Let us go on.
Okay.
It's okay, sir.
Yes.
All right, sir. I'm coming, sir. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, all. I recognize all our mentors in the house. Is Ayinla back?
Yes, Dr. Ayinla is
Dr.
back.
Ayinla, are you back? Okay. If you can't get Dr. Ayinla, even though I don't have the summarized brief of my mentor, Professor Olorunnisola here, but I will try and give a brief about him. Professor Olorunnisola is the Vice Chancellor of Dominion University, Lagos. He is okay. Are they playing it? Somebody is trying to share it, but I will not be able to read it.
Okay.
But don't worry.
Can I read?
Okay. Okay.
Can I read
Is that
too?
Dr. Ayinla?
Dr. Ayinla
Yes,
is
sir.
back.
We have been waiting for you. Go ahead.
Please go ahead,
Sorry.
Dr. Ayinla.
Okay. Professor Olajide Olorunnisola graduated with a bachelor's degree in agricultural engineering in 1989. He subsequently obtained master's and doctoral degrees at the University of Ibadan in 1992 and 1997, respectively. He also obtained a professional diploma in management from the Nigerian Institute of Management in 1999. He joined the services of University of University of Ibadan as a lecturer in the Department of Agricultural Engineering, Faculty of Technology in January 1993, and rose through the ranks to become a professor on October 1, 2006. He subsequently transferred his services to the Department of Woods Product Engineering at his establishment in March 2017. He has served the University of Ibadan in various capacities over the last 31 years, including the following: Sub-Dean undergraduate from 1996 to 2000, Sub-Dean postgraduate from 2004 to 2007, Faculty of Technology, Sub-Dean 2007 to 2010, Dean 2010 to 2014 of the postgraduate school, Pioneer Head of Department of Wood Product Engineering 2017 to 2021, member of the Board of IT and Media Services, as well as University of Ibadan School of Business 2012 to 2014, member of the Court of Governors, College of Medicine 2018 to 2019, and Senate Representative on the Governing Council 2019 to 2021. He has also held visiting appointments with several institutions across the globe at different times, including the Pennsylvania University, State Park, US 2000 to 2002, Buckingham's New University, England 2004, the Central Building Research Institute, Rookie, India 2008, University of Sao Paulo, Brazil 2010, and my Comic School of Engineering, Northwestern University, Evanston, Illinois, US 2016. Outside the university committee, Professor Olorunnisola served as the president, Futa Alumni Association, Oyo State Chapter 2009 to 2019, Vice Chairman 2008 to 2009, Chairman 2010 to 2011 of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Ibadan branch, General Secretary 2006 to 2010, and National President of the Material Science and Technology Society of Nigeria 2010 to 2014, Chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Management, Chartered, Ibadan Chapter 2017 to 2021, and Chairman of the National Works Committee of the Nigerian Institute of Management 2018 to 2019. He is a life member of the Nigerian Institute of Agricultural Engineers, member American Society of Agriculture and Biological Engineers, and member for Forest Products Society, USA. He holds the fellowship of the Material Science and Technology Society of Nigeria, Nigerian Society of Engineers, the Nigerian Institute of Management, and the Nigerian Institute of Environmental Engineering, respectively. He was an invited speaker at the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development meeting. Representing Nigeria as a member of the International Network for Bamboo and Rattan, Expert Task Force on Rattan Uses and Development, Bamboo for Renewable Energy and Sustainable Bamboo Development. He is also a member of African Organization for Standardization Technical Survey Committee, RTOTC 2024, on wood and timber products, and International Standard Organization, ICOTC 299, Technical Committee on Bamboo. His area of research expertise include development of agricultural processing machines, sustainable building materials, biofuel conservation technology, and computer modeling. He has served as external examiner to several universities in Nigeria, Algeria, Kenya, and India. He has successfully supervised 14 PhD theses, over 40. He has a patent and over 150 publications to his credit. He assumed duty as the Vice Chancellor of Dominion University, Ibadan, on November 2021. Thank you, sir, the member.
Thank you very much, Dr. Luko, for the brief introduction of our guest speaker
Dr.
today.
Ayla. Dr. Ayla, Ayla.
Oh, sorry for that mix-up. Thank you, Dr. Ayla, for that introduction of our guest speaker. You can see from his introduction that he's vast in experience, and he has all the wherewithal for him to take us through the topic this afternoon. I have the singular honor to invite our guest speaker in person of Engineer Professor A.O. Olorunnisola, the current Vice Chancellor of Dominion University. Prof, you are welcome, sir.
Thank you, Madam Professor. Nice seeing you again. It's been a while.
It's been a while, sir.
Good
Thank you,
afternoon, everyone in the house. Thank you. I've seen that Professor Faborode is online, so I must pay homage to our mentors. So I use him as a point of contact to all other mentors that are here online to attend this meeting, and all other colleagues in the professions, some of whom I've not seen in almost 20 years. So it's a pleasure being here this afternoon to make this presentation. I feel some sense of nostalgia. I remember the 1990s when I used to attend all the NIE conferences. I was in Owerri in 1997, I was in Ife 1996, Akure 1995, up to when Ibadan hosted the conference in 2000. And then I traveled abroad for 2 years. By the time I came back, there were some other engagements. And from then on, there was some kind of disconnect between me and the NIAE. But suffice it to say that, well, I'm a life member and I've always followed with keen interest what has been going on in the society. One of the reasons why I couldn't attend national conferences again was that it started colliding with the Material Science and Technology Society of Nigeria conferences, where I was secretary for 4 years and then president for 4 years. So again, that's just to explain why some people in the house might not even know me. Some don't even know that I'm an agricultural engineer. But those who were there in the 90s know that I was very active in the society. Having said that, it's also important to say thank you to Professor Engr and Dr. Abu, who extended invitation to me to make this presentation. And they gave me the liberty to choose my topic. Sorry, let me put off my security for was looking at that. Yeah, they gave me the liberty to choose the topic of my liking. And I just felt that it's important to remind ourselves of certain things in the profession about how to move forward. And that is what informed my choice of topic for today. I'm not going to be saying something extraordinarily new. It's just to remind ourselves of certain truths and to see how we can move this nation forward in terms of agricultural production. So I'll begin now to share my screen and I will start my presentation. So please, can you see my screen?
Yes.
It's still
Yes.
booting. Okay, it's here.
Yes.
Thank you. Now let me go to just a minute.
Slideshow.
I'm trying to, yeah, slideshow.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Now, so the topic that we want to consider for the next 25 or so minutes is innovative materials for sustainable agricultural development in Africa. And just, well, a brief greetings from the University. Professor Olorunnisola, the VC
Yes.
before me. I'm in Ibadan, not Lagos. Yes, we are the extreme end of
Okay. Yes,
but we
sir.
are
Yes,
still
sir.
Ibadan. So Dominion University in Ibadan is in Ibadan. This is a 5-year-old university. It was established in 2019. And I assumed duty as Vice Chancellor of November 1, 2021. So we bring you greetings from this cool place that is at the extreme end of the Ibadan end of the Lagos-Ibadan express road. Please feel free to stop over anytime some of you are on your trip to Lagos and say hello to us. We'll be glad to welcome you. Many people don't know that 1,000 students in this university. It looks quiet and serene. If you are traveling, you think that there's nothing happening, but there are close to 1,000 students living here on campus in this 5-year-old university. So the outcome of my presentation, I'll make some brief remarks about agriculture and agricultural development. I'll go on to also make some statements about current status of agricultural development in Africa, but with particular reference to sub-Saharan Africa. And many of the things I'll be talking about will exclude South Africa because South Africa is better advanced agricultural production. Then I'll look at the role of agricultural mechanization, agricultural development, then some myths about agricultural mechanization. And what are some of the innovative materials that we can adopt for sustainable agricultural production in Africa? Again, my focus will be largely on sub-Saharan Africa. So, of course, as we all know, agriculture, well, a simple definition of agriculture is that it is the production, processing, marketing, and use of foods, fibers, byproducts, and so on from crops and animals, and of course, biofuels. Because we know today, when we talk about biodiesel and bioethanol, there is also already the concept of energy farming. So when we practice agriculture today, it's not just about food and feed, it's also about energy. So biofuels have also become a major product of agriculture. And so today, even as agriculture requires energy, agriculture also is a means of producing energy, because there are all kinds of energy resources that we can get from agriculture. Now, agricultural development, as we also all know, led to the rise of human civilization. It was after man was able to feed himself that we started the Industrial Revolution. So, and the food, the feed, the fiber that were required for industrialization are also products of agriculture. So usually agriculture, but not always, usually agriculture precedes industrial development. I say usually, but not always, because we have examples of countries like Singapore, Japan, who don't have agricultural resources, but they have developed. But most other nations went through agricultural revolution before industrial revolution. On a worldwide basis, more people are involved in agriculture today than in any other occupation combined. And agriculture has made great contributions to international trade. Since even today, most of the items that are imported and exported by many countries are agricultural products. For example, one of the challenges we have in Nigeria today is about rice. We don't have it. So one of the yardsticks that people use to measure the performance of government in Nigeria today is the price of rice. So people will tell you that in the days of Buhari, the price of a bag of rice is X amount. Today it is Y amount. Just as a by the way, but we know that agriculture contributes significantly to international trade. And we also know, as I've said, that the main engine of economic growth is agriculture. And there's no doubt that agriculture in Africa has a massive social and economic footprint, that it plays a prominent role in socio-economic development. And we as Africans have long relied on our rich landscapes, fertile soils, and relatively predictable weather to drive agricultural productivity. And this has significantly contributed to our income. But then a rapidly modernizing agriculture produces food without which an economy cannot possibly grow, because it also creates demand for new industries. So what is the situation today in Africa? Today, agriculture is providing employment for about 2/3 of Africa's working population, contributing an average of 30 to 60% of the GDP, and about 30% of the value of exports for many African countries. As a sector, agriculture can actually contribute towards our continental priorities, such as poverty alleviation, hunger reduction, boosting intra-Africa trade and investments, rapid industrialization, and economic diversification, among others. Let me just latch in on boosting intra-Africa trade. A lot of the exportation and importation of food items today is between Africa and other continents, Asia, Europe. We are not doing enough intra-African trade. And so there are new initiatives to encourage intra-African trade. It's not that we are not doing, but we are not doing enough. And we believe that if we improve on our agriculture and we provide the necessary frameworks, then we can boost intra-Africa trade and investment. So Africa has enormous potentials, not only to feed itself and eliminate hunger, but to also be a major player in global food markets. Over the last 1.5 decades, many African countries that have increased their investments in agriculture, and have included Ghana, Togo, Zambia, Burundi, and indeed Nigeria in recent times, have seen some reductions in hunger, poverty, and then increases in productivity. Some people may wonder, why did I say Nigeria? A lot of investments have gone into rice production. And I just checked this morning. Nigeria now is among the 10 largest producers of rice in the world today. You can check it out, you can fact check it. But the problem we have is we consume more rice. We still consume more than we produce. And we also have all these other challenges of insecurity, herdsmen, challenges in some of the places where production takes place. But a lot of investment has gone into rice production, for example. And some achievements have been made. they may not be enough yet, but a lot of progress has been made. Although the flip side of that question or equation is how much involvement of agricultural engineers in Nigeria did we have? I recall that when the previous government was talking about boosting rice production, they started talking about importing equipment from especially China to process rice. And I felt so sad because I'm aware that many of our senior colleagues have worked on rice processing, from parboiling to destoning and so on. And it was a shame that NIE, for example, except I'm not aware that NIE was asked to make contributions to how we can take care of the equipment needs for rice processing. Maybe it's one of the answers I'll get today, because I'm not aware that that request was made. I believe that one of the challenges we still have in Nigeria is we prefer to look outside for solutions to our problems for which the solutions already exist inside. I'm aware that UI, ITA, and so on have worked on the different aspects of rice, from threshing to parboiling to destoning and so on. But I'm not aware that some of these technologies were taken on board when the federal government started to boost the rice production. Anyway, that is an aside. Now, while the world's population has grown by 60% in the last 30 years, Africa's population has doubled overall and tripled in urban areas. In fact, Africa is the largest growing continent in the world today. Only a dozen African countries have not seen their population double over this period, especially North Africa and South Africa. And then only Somalia, whose population has suffered over 20 years of conflict, has experienced a growth rate that is less than double in the last 30 years. And it's estimated that today, the African population is about 1.5 billion, which represents about 18% of the total world population. It's estimated that by 2050, Africa's population will reach 2.5 billion. That will now be about over a quarter of the world's total. And then by year 2100, Africa will constitute about 40% of the world's total population at a population of 4.5 billion. If you come to sub-Saharan Africa, our population is growing at about 2.7% per year, which is more than twice as fast as South Asia and Latin America. So what are the consequences of this population growth rate? Is that we have more mouths to feed. But unfortunately, from being self-sufficient in the 1960s, Africa has now become a net importer of many food items, including cereals, and especially wheat and rice. Africa currently imports products that compete with its own. So we import meat, we import dairy products, cereals, and vegetable oils. If you take Nigeria, for example, we spend about $10 billion annually to import food and agricultural products, including wheat, rice, poultry, fish, and food services. So that's a lot of money compared to the 60s when we were self-sufficient. So what then is the status of agriculture in Africa today? From the figures that I have, Africa has about 33 million farms today that are less than 2 hectares. And this constitutes about 80% of all farms in Africa. And it's also estimated that over 80% of food consumed in Africa and the rest of the developing world comes from small farms. So my focus today will be on small farms. That's why I'm providing this figure here now. Now, African farm systems are the least developed or mechanized across all continents. That's from FAO 2016, and the situation has not changed 8 years down the line. In sub-Saharan Africa, 80% of land area is still cultivated by hand, 15% with animals, and only 5% with tractors. So the level of tractorization is still very low. That has its own positive and negative effects, as we all know. Now, Africa's average annual fertilizer use is only about 20 kilograms per hectare against the world's average of 96 kilograms per hectare. hectare, and the cropland is only 6% irrigated against the world's average of 17%. Now, this in particular has implication now that we have the challenge of climate change. As we all know in Nigeria, by this time of the year, we are at the tail end of April, rains ought to have felt multiple times. I think we have only had rain once or twice. So we will have to depend more and more on irrigated agriculture as one of the ways to combat climate change effects. But as we speak now, fewer and fewer of croplands in Africa have access to irrigation. And I'm going to be talking about how I think we can address that without investing too much money. So the implication is that agricultural labor productivity has stagnated over the years in Africa. And so our farmers' incomes have also stagnated, if not reduced. We also have challenges with food and nutrition security. But then, for the foreseeable future, heavy dependence on small farms, and by that I mean farms that are less than 5 hectares, is likely to continue in sub-Saharan Africa. Again, I've told you earlier that my focus is sub-Saharan Africa. I've been to South Africa. I know that they have a lot of mechanized farms. So we will be excluding South Africa from this conversation. But in the rest of sub-Saharan Africa, many of our farms will still be small, even though available evidence suggests that small-scale farming is much less attractive to young people than large-scale mechanized farming. But we can make significant headway in modernizing agriculture through some wise application of material science and technology. And how do I mean? I'm going to explain that shortly. Now, the future of sustainable agricultural development and food security in Africa will depend on us paying more attention to small farms. Because I've said for the next 10, 15 years, that, or even 20 years, many of our farms will still be small. Now, despite their relative neglect in policy, small farms significantly contribute to food and nutrition security, not just in Africa, but many other parts of the world, even in Europe. Currently, they produce up to 75, between 50 and 75% of the food calories that are consumed globally. Of course, small farms also play important roles in special quality food production, diversification of rural economy, management of natural resources, provision of employment and family income, and so on. So it's not just in Africa that we see our small farms, even in Europe. You can check this out, you can fact check. There's still a lot of small farms, even in Europe. And so the way to go is mechanization. We all know the definition of mechanization. So, and then the different types. You have the hand tool technology, draft animal technology, and the engine power. So we need to, what we need to do is to decide what kind of mechanization we want to adopt. Now, just a brief remark about the fact that there were substantial state-led efforts to promote mechanization during the 60s and 70s. We remember the days of tractor hiring units, land development, the schemes that Babangida regime brought into place, and so on. But most of these efforts failed due to governance challenges. Unfortunately, it was not just in Nigeria. Across Africa, many government-led efforts failed. And this resulted in the perception that Africa was not yet ripe for mechanization. And this led to the subsequent neglect in mechanization, both in development practice and in academia. Interestingly, that story is changing now in many African countries. Many investors are now interested in coming back to developing mechanization in Africa. But for many years, the perception was that Africa was not yet ripe for mechanization. And then some false notions of mechanization also emerged. There are many of them, but I'm just going to look at 5 of them today. So I refer to them as myths, the 5 myths of agricultural mechanization. So what do I mean by myths? Myths are popular propositions that are either based on mixed evidence or not supported by any evidence at all. So what are these 5 notions that I refer to as myths? One is that mechanization will only occur if governments import machinery on large scale. It is false. We can still have mechanization without government importing in the last place. The second myth is that mechanization is bad for the environment, as it leads to expansion of cultivation, deforestation, monocultures, soil erosions, and emissions. Now, there's mixed evidence about this. Sometimes it is true, sometimes it is false. Now, the third myth is that mechanization leads to unemployment. This is also not always true. 4, smallholders cannot benefit from mechanization. That obviously is false. And 5, mechanization is only a labor-saving technology that has no effect on yield. That has mixed evidence. At times it is true, at times it is false. The unfortunate thing is that these myths can mislead policies and programs aimed at addressing mechanization and thus potentially undermine the contribution offered by mechanization in Africa to global food security. So I'm taking the fourth myth that is false and see how mechanization can actually help smallholder farmers. That is my focus in this presentation. Now, a transition to sustainable agriculture is needed in Africa for us to be able to accelerate the growth of basic food production, harvesting, and processing. And what we need to do is to look into appropriate selective mechanization, as has been advocated more than 25 years ago by our revered late Professor Odibo, Professor Ige, and Ibeka at different times. And what do they say? We say that selective mechanization is about using hand tools, implements, and machines for agricultural land development, crop production, water control, harvesting, and so on, in a selective manner. So, for example, you can do plowing with the appropriate tractor or draft animal. You can do your seeding with hand or simple mechanical machines. So that means you have a mix of equipment that you can use. Everything does not have to be fully automated. You can use different. So, for example, a smallholder farmer can hire a tractor to do plowing, but he can have his own harvester, small-scale harvester, can have his own small-scale thresher. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about here. And why should that be the case? It's because the performance history of imported agricultural machinery in Africa has been largely characterized by a chronic chorus of lack of capital, spare parts, repair facilities, skilled operators, and mechanics. Also, there have been issues of incompatibility with fragile local soil conditions and farmers' cropping techniques. For example, many of our farmers in Africa do intercropping. And for most automated machines and so on, they will prefer monocropping. You just have a single crop. If it is maize, it is maize. If it is cassava, it is cassava. But we know that many of our farmers still do intercropping. And that's one of the reasons why selective mechanization may be a way out for them. Several scholars have therefore recommended the use of local materials as substitution to iron and steel. In fact, one of the people that recommended that is not even an agricultural engineer, that's Professor Bamiro in his inaugural lecture in 1980, I think 88 or thereabout, that we may have to substitute some of the iron and steel equipment with locally available materials. And then it has also been recommended that we should look into village-level fabrication of agricultural machines and equipment by blacksmiths, tinsmiths, and even carpenters. So what are some of the materials that we can use? We can use wood, bamboo, and natural fibers, which are generally available and affordable, as partial or full substitute for steel in many of our machines and equipment. And I'm just going to show some examples now, and then we'll round up. We'll start from planting. Of course, we know what the various component parts of a planter are. You have the hopper, the handles, the measuring device, the furrow opener, and so on. Now, many of these parts can be replaced with wood. For example, the hopper, there's one that says the hopper cannot be wooden. There's one that says the measuring device cannot be made of wood. The handle or any other wood product, or any other available material, maybe composite materials. Ultimately, this will reduce the cost of production. Ultimately, it means that local manufacturers can handle it. Now, it is not every time that you can have 100% substitution, but if you can achieve up to 50 or 70% substitution, then you rely less on electricity for production. The cost most likely will be lower, and then it might be affordable to farmers. So I've shown you an example here where the handle is another planter. You can see the handle has been fabricated. This is the basic one that is not automated at all. And this is another one where the metering device has been replaced with wood. So I took all these from existing literature, showing you that people are already working in this area. And like I said, I'm not bringing any unique idea. I'm just trying to remind us of what we can do to help our small scale farmers. So we can see that in terms of planting, we can substitute quite a number of the component parts of a planter with other cheaper materials that will make it affordable to small scale farmers. Now, if we come to irrigation, we have said that only about 6% of farms in sub-Saharan Africa are irrigated. And we have also noted that now that we have climate change problems, we need to look at more at irrigated agriculture for increased production. But then efficient use of water in Africa does not have to depend on large-scale, energy-intensive irrigation systems. Small pumps have had an important beneficial effect on irrigation of vegetable and even rice production in some African countries. And so we can look at cheap ways of piping irrigation water. One that myself and one of my students have worked on is the use of natural fiber cement composites, just mixing natural fiber with cement and producing a composite pipe, which can serve effectively as a irrigation pump. Bamboos have also been considered as, and they do a lot of this in Asia. They use bamboo for irrigation, water transportation. Now, these are the natural fiber composite pipes that a student of mine worked on some 8 years ago. So we can introduce some of these materials into our small-scale farming. Now, when it comes to crop processing, of course, we produce different kinds of crops across Africa. I'm advocating here that wood is especially suitable for fabricating the casings and other component parts of many of our threshers, because wood absorbs large amounts of sound energy before it resonates, so the noise will be minimal from experience. Since 1998, my students and I have worked on different crop processing machines. This is the first version of a groundnut sheller that we produce. So the hopper, the casing, and even the collector are made of wood. Although the threshing unit is a combination of wood. It was a rasp bar sheller. So it's a combination of steel and wood. Later, we developed one that has a cleaning unit. There's another one that I've not shown here that is 100% wood. We did not use any metal at all. Now, these machines are still available in the Department of Wood Products Engineering UI. You can see them there, and they have worked effectively. We achieved very high threshing efficiencies with minimal kernel waste or loss. Now, we have also developed maize shellers that is about 70% made of wood, as you can see here. In fact, the only metallic elements here are the pulleys and the transmission mechanisms there. But virtually every other component there is made of wood. And the maize seeds that you see on the right were actually the products of that machine. Again, this machine is available for view with the Department of Wood Products Engineering of UI. Actually, somebody saw this and was interested. We were at some point going to do it, but I think the person lost interest. So again, this is to show us that these things are possible. Now, when it comes to drying, of course, we know that drying is an important preservation process for many agricultural products, crops, and food products. Modern artificial dryers are still very expensive in Nigeria, and they are unaffordable to small-scale farmers, even across Africa. So simple solar dryers that many people have worked on, we can introduce. So again here, I'm just going to show you one dryer that I worked on just to dry some vegetables and okra. Solar dryer with basic simple material. This is a box. That's a tin box with holes in it, and then with charcoal inside. What's the essence of charcoal? To dry the air that goes in, and then you have this rubber pipe that takes in the air into the dryer, and then you have the exit for the hot air. This is your normal thing for wrapping a cake. So from basic materials, and the whole component here is made of wood, apart from the glass covering. So this is another example of a dryer that you can have. So with our local people in their small-scale farms having these things, they do not require electricity to dry their products. Of course, we know the challenge with solar dryers is about the insolation. It's not every day that you have sunlight. But then, right now, what they also still do is to depend on sunlight to do straight, direct drying. And oftentimes, they expose these things to insects, they expose them to flies and so on. But with these coverings, they also minimize contamination. So wood is also a good material for about 80% substitution in dryers. When it comes to grain storage, we know that one of the major problems with food supply in sub-Saharan Africa is not just relatively low agricultural production, but the considerable poor storage-induced post-harvest losses, especially for crops like maize, millet, sorghum, and cowpea, which are seasonal and require storage if they will be available all year round or as seed until the next planting season. It's been estimated that grain losses of up to 50% occur in some sub-Saharan African countries. It's also been shown that metallic silos are unsuitable for long-term grain storage in this part of Africa. They promote moisture condensation, caking, and insect infestation of the stored grains. There can also be the challenge of development of hot spots. In fact, heat flow into some silos may be sufficiently high to roast the grain that are directly in contact with the silo. And so, starting from mid-year 1989 up to Alabama 2002 and others, they have advocated for wooden grain silos, which are considered to be more efficient in reducing moisture condensation and hot spots, and they are suitable for small and medium-scale farmers. Again, the focus is on small and medium-scale farmers. And this is from Alabama 2002. I think this was mounted in Mina, where it was tested. Professor Mijinyawa's own silo was in Ibadan, where it was tested, starting from 1989. So one of the things I'm advocating is let's begin to make use of these technologies that have been locally developed. And of course, I know one of the challenges really is extension. We have agricultural extension workers, but we don't have agricultural engineering extension workers. Even if we have, we don't have enough. When I was in Penn State University 2000-2002, in the Department of Agriculture and Biological Engineering where I was, there were staff who were specifically for research and extension. They were not involved in any teaching. Research, then they go to the field, bring the problems home, do the research, and then go back to the field. I advocated something like this in my inaugural lecture in 2013, but I don't know if there's any Nigerian university today that has engaged people purely as researchers and extension workers. All of us are still doing teaching research and community service. It's about time that we begin to look at the extension aspect of our work. And that's why many of the things that we have done are still lying on the shelf. And people will be accusing you, why have you not commercialized this? Why have you not? Because there isn't enough time to do teaching research and community service and still do extension work. So one of the things I'm advocating through this message is to reconsider the schedule of activities required of engineering lecturers, online lecturers in Nigeria, and see how we can engage some purely in research and extension work. Now, if it comes to poultry production, of course, one of the core aspects of poultry production is egg incubation to produce chicks, day-old chicks. Now, most small-scale poultry farmers, again, in Sub-Saharan Africa, are not able to produce day-old chicks. And as you see in my comments at the beginning, poultry is one of the things that we import a lot because we are not producing enough. So and our small-scale farmers don't have incubators to produce small day-old chicks. So wood, we have found out that wood can be used to fabricate small-scale incubators because of its local availability, relatively low cost, and effective heat insulation. And this is a sample of an incubator that a student of mine, now a professor in the department, that's a rumor there, and I developed in 1998. And we were able to hatch eggs effectively. The only other thing apart from wood here is the glass covering, all the other components, and then, okay, the egg tray. All the other components are wood. And we were able to hatch day-old chicks effectively. So what are my conclusions? The use of locally available non-metallic materials as partial or full substitution in manufacturing is a means of making available to African small-scale farmers suitable and affordable machines for crop production, irrigation, drying, and storage facilities. And this is imperative because smallholder farmers in particular are key to agricultural development in Africa. If we exclude them from mechanization, that will also result in unequal land and wealth distribution. It's important for us to note also that while small farms are typical of the rural landscape in Africa, small-scale farms continue to exist and even thrive in the global north, including Europe. And I think I've made that point before. So lest anyone disparages small farms, even in Europe today, a lot of them still engage in small-scale farming. To promote widespread adoption of appropriate agricultural mechanization, the critical factors militating against technology diffusion have to be addressed. And I've mentioned one of them. One is extension. Now, for people to change, they must first be aware. So awareness creation is number one. Quite a number of the machines and the equipment that we have developed, people don't even know. So who are the people that will create the awareness? They are the extension workers. And you can only do extension effectively if you are quite familiar with the product. So it's not sufficient for somebody with a degree in agriculture to try to do extension for agricultural engineering machine. It has to be an agricultural engineer who knows essentially what the machine or the equipment is all about, who can promote it. So we need agricultural engineering extension workers. And of course, in developing a machine and equipment, we have to make it participatory. So we talk to the farmers, what they actually need, because again, we know that culture also plays a key role in the adoption of technology. There are some technologies that will not be adopted just because it's at variance with the culture of the people. So agricultural engineers alone may not be able to do this. So that's why we still need rural sociologists who can help us in understanding the cultural preferences of people for whom we are trying to advocate the change of technology. And as Africa is gearing for agricultural mechanization, efforts should be made to ensure that policies and programs are not based on misleading myths. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, our presenter, Professor Olorunnisola. The lecture is so innovative, so informative. It is really an eye-opener and is really enlightening. I want to thank you for your wonderful presentations.
Thank you.
Yes, it's time for us to take some question and answers. It's supposed to be anchored by Dr. Benjamin Atta, but he has requested that I should stand in for him. So I don't know if we have any questions for Professor Olorunnisola. Please do by indicating yes. I can see Engineer Umar Bindi. Please go ahead and ask your question, sir.
Thank you very much. Prof, thank you very much for a fantastic lecture. And I think you touched on most of the issues. I can see my boss, Professor Faborode, there listening very carefully. I just have a comment. The comment in the sense that when we senior agric engineers discuss, in most cases, we avoid discussing on animal husbandry. And that is how you also see government. When they support agriculture, it's always about fertilizer. It's always about crop production. And we believe that from unpublished work, that this gap is actually what has caused the farmers' hardest problem. Because when you have water bodies during dry season, now pumps are very readily available. Training is readily available. So you support only crop farmers. They get close to the water bodies. They put farms everywhere. And then there are nowhere for animals to actually drink. And therefore, when animals and herders come in, then there is a lot of fight. So with the kind of very extensive research and evidence-based presentation you made, very useful. I think as we explore further, we need also as agric engineers to factor in animal production technologies, small or medium scale feed production, animal care, animal housing, and so on and so animal processing, so that we also deceive or convince government that this is another aspect. You touched just a tiny bit on poultry, which is on your work to do with hatching, but we haven't touched fish, for example, aquaculture. We also have a responsibility as agric engineers, but certainly I enjoyed the lecture. I like your comment on extension work. I think it's very, very germane, although it's not necessarily has to be agric engineers. Extension workers are generic like agricultural engineers. We're soil mechanics specialists, we're machinery specialists, we're water specialists, we're everything, but composed in one. So also extension workers. Finally, I want to encourage you. I know you mentioned about commercialization. I think the gap is you as researcher, you as an inventor or whatever, cannot commercialize effectively. That is why government has even given research institutions and universities the permission to establish companies. So you have to invest to cover your intellectual property. You have to invest to market these things with specialists. You have to invest to have exhibitions that are convincing and deceiving. Most of the exhibitions we do are very prototype based. They're even very discouraging, you know. Nobody will, yeah, it's true that you can showcase that you are smart and you are intelligent, but it's not a product that can make money and somebody can invest in. So thank you very much. And it's good to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Bindi, for your comments. We are grateful. I'd like to call on Professor Faborode. We are far behind schedule, ahead of schedule. The meeting is supposed to close by 1. So our questions, our comments should be as brief as possible. Prof, you are welcome, sir. Professor Faborode. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, the moderator. Very pleased to see Professor Adekimo is anchoring this program. And let me, you didn't realize that the last speaker is a big chief. Is Baba Mufti of, so if you just call him engineer, doctor, you are not doing justice.
Apologies, sir.
He's on the way to becoming the Sadana of Adama or something. So better give him all the quality. Yeah, that's just in lighter mood. Let me commend the VC for the presentation that he has made. I think he has touched on very important points, and as Dr. Bindi has mentioned, he highlighted very important things, and even myself, as coordinated and organized as I am, I've not been aware of a lot of the machines that are based on wooden material. So we need to popularize work so that people can be aware. I mean, they are so well produced, and I think they should be placed in the marketplace where people can decide to adopt them. I think Dr. Engr has mentioned something about that we have to make some efforts at forging this academia industry partnership so that our work does not just remain in the laboratories forever. The other point I want to make is on extension. He also touched on it, that too often we do not realize the importance of extension in our work. Agric engineers have to work in tandem with extension practitioners. We don't necessarily have to create actuarial engineering extension as such, but they can work in harmony. And a good example is NALS in Zaria, where Professor Ottman is the leader. I mean, Ottman will be described as an agric engineer and as an extension person. So we need perhaps this sort of seminar. We asked Professor Usman, one of his team members, to tell us more about the partnership, the synergy that needs to come from extension and actuarial engineering practice so that we can make the necessary impacts. As Dr. Engr has said, we need to be more conscious of the impact of our work on national development, and we should not leave any stone unturned to ensure that our voices are heard and we are very prominent. As Professor Olorunnisola mentioned, a number of things happen in Nigeria and they don't even care. I mean, to respond to the current high food prices and hunger, people are importing tractors. They are just importing tractors from all over. They don't care what tractors they are bringing. They are more interested in the pecuniary aspects and their own personal pecuniary aspects. How many percentage are they going to get? Not the quality of tractors. I can bet you 3-5 years down the line, a lot of the tractors they are importing today will be in carcass. And that's a shame. So NIE is trying to work with FNSE to let this be realized. We need to let them know our position. Let's put it out there. Even if they don't respect it, it will be on record that we made the appropriate observations when this craziness is going around. A lot of state governments are just importing tractors. I can tell you it is not because they want to increase food production. It is just the kickback that they're going to get from it. That's what is in their interest. And so we must ensure that we caution against this excessive waste of our resources, which has been the practice in Nigeria. So thank you, Professor Olorunnisola, for coming back to the phone to give us this talk. Don't run away now that you are back. You must stay and continue to be of service to the profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Faborode. We are grateful. I want to call on Engineer Fidelis for his own questions and comments. Let us be as brief as possible so that we can end this session. Engineer Fidelis, please.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Actually, I'm not an engineer.
Okay.
I'm a veterinary doctor.
Okay.
But I normally love engineers. Actually, I really appreciate the lecturer for some of the information that he has put forward. For the first time, I've heard somebody saying that giving value to small-scale farming, which has been actually neglected by most of those people that are listening to in this area. And I really appreciate that. And also have been able to know the importance of woods in some of those things. But there's something I wanted to say. The last two speakers have actually said, but I still want to add on the issue of collaboration between this Department of Agricultural Engineering in our universities or maybe polytechnics and the Faculty of Agriculture, where we have agronomy and the rest. Because the issue is that we are talking about exporting our innovations from the universities to the field. But right inside the university, when you go to Faculty of Agricultural Engineering, Agricultural Sciences, when you have undergraduate, when they are doing their demonstration farms, you find it difficult to see them applying some of these equipments that have been developed in agricultural engineering. They are still using hoes. They are still harvesting rice using the sickle. They're not using any of those things. So I think we should start thinking of how we can apply some of those things, even from within. And just as the other person, professor said, that we have, most of the universities, they have a consultancy unit. So even if the government is not interested in using our inventions in the universities, this consultancy service that looks like companies should be able to use this, because most of the things that Prof has presented, I was so much impressed. I wish I could have them to take to my own village, because I know we are farmers. I'm from Benue State. And some of those things, I think they would be useful to some of our villages in Benue State and in other places that they do a lot of farming. So what am I saying? What I'm trying to say is that we have not been able to apply what we have invented, even right in our institution. So if we have not done that, it will be very difficult for us to even think of moving them to the farmers in the field. But I really appreciate this lecture, and I pray that you continue to give us such information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fidelis, for your comments and contribution. Like you observed when we're starting this session, that our chairman, our capable and able chairman, Engineer Professor J.O. Olaoye, was not with us when we started. So I think I want to use my office now to give him the opportunity to give a short remark before we now take the closing remark. Engineer Professor Olaoye, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Adejuma, for this for anchoring this program so effectively and so well. I want to thank the FNIE for the presentation already made. Professor Olorunnisola, we are grateful to have you back, like our mentor said, Professor Faborode, don't leave us again. You know, we have been on you already, and you must have received my messages. And so we are looking forward to much of this collaborative work that we must do for our own profession. I want to sincerely appreciate all our senior members who are presently hooking on onto this program. You know, it has been so enlightening. And the presentation we have today is like continuation of what we have started before. We want to keep on the legacy. We do not want to stop this program. It's a monthly affair. And so that it will spur us into actions. There are issues already raised, which I believe as professionals, we must try as much as possible to hang on them. I want you to know that from our end, we try as much as possible to have various opinions and thoughts that we must pursue. Like Prof said, Professor Faborode, the issue of tractor importation into the country, we are looking at ways by which we get our voice prominently declared to the federal government. Of course, we had already contacted the FNSE.
I think we lost.
I think we lost Professor Olaoye, probably due to poor network.
So
we should Sir?
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. I think we lost Professor Lawi due to poor network. Without wasting much of our time, we could see that we spent so much time, even though it was quite and well used and enlightening. I would like to call on Professor Adeni Olayonju. Popularly, he will call himself Ojogbon, to please give us the closing remarks. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you, Prof. We really appreciate you for calling the program well. I think I want to just go straight and appreciate the leadership of FNIEE and that of CIGR for giving us this unique opportunity at a professional development committee level. We want to thank you for the confidence that you have in us. We also want to thank the immediate part chairman, Professor Alonge. He has always been of help, especially anytime we have one issue or the other with respect to this presentation. I recognize all our mentors in the house. Your attendance is always encouraging us. When you see people like Professor Faborodi, Engineer Femi, Engineer Professor Bindi, and all of that, attending this kind of webinar with the younger ones, we are always being encouraged. Professor Adewumi, we want to thank all of you. As at the last count, we have an average of 50 participants, which is not all that bad, but we can also have more. That is why when we get the banner and that of flyer, we should quickly try and circulate, not just on our NIE platform, on other platforms, so that even WhatsApp, so that people can really have direct access to the link. We really want to thank you. I want to especially thank my big brother, the presenter of today, Engineer Professor Olorunnisola. Apology, when you talk of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, most of the time you want to tend towards picking Lagos. So I know DOI is in Ibadan. So we want to thank you for that well-loaded, impactful presentation. And like most of our mentors have said, you have really touched the aspects that are needed, especially that area of mechanization and the myths that are surrounding it. Addressing those myths also, we make sure that we address some of the sustainable development goals, like that of SDG 1 poverty, no poverty, the zero hunger of the SDG 2, and that of SDG 9, talking about innovation. I was recently in a farm-led program, and some of the things that Engineer Dr. Bindi mentioned and Professor Faborode is what the farmers are also saying, that most of our projects, most of our researches, they are such that they are not farmers-led. It is when we go to them and we're able to get what they need. Then we now build, even apology to the non-Christian, he said, and Noah build according to the pattern. So it is a farmer that will tell us what they need. Otherwise, we will still continue having most of our projects. They will just be hanging on the shelf. And then with this kind of array of projects that you have mentioned, just like that veterinary doctor man said, we need to also make sure that within the university, within the polytechnic, within our organization, people are making use of what we have before we now talk of the external contest. Having said all of this, we want to thank you all for participating in this month of April webinar. I want to give special kudos to Engineer Audu. I call him Executive Secretary of PDC. The flyer was like, are we going to have it or not? But with their tenacity and all of that, here we are. So we want to appreciate everyone that has contributed, everyone that has been part of this. Let's keep on the good work. Let's keep on the legacy. And then for May, we will still have it. Let's always put it at the back of our mind that the last Thursday of the month is for NIE's IDR webinar. So we want to thank everybody. I know some people are still raising their hand, but if you notice, we have already exceeded the time. But we can always get across to us. The email is being shared in the chat room so that we can have some of our comments and we pass it even to our presenter. Once again, we want to thank you, Professor Olorunnisola. We appreciate you once again. Nice seeing you live and direct. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending this webinar.
We wish to put our video.
Thank you all.
Our video. Let's show our video so that we can screenshot.
Okay.
Okay.
As we begin to round up. Thank you, ma'am.
We want to once again appreciate everybody for the participation and even our presenter, even as all our fathers and mentors have spoken. We want to bring this session to a close. Looking forward to seeing every one of us next month by God's grace. Have a wonderful week.
Bye.
Weekend.
Thank you, Prof.
Happy months ahead. Thank
Everyone.
you. See you.